and everyone was like, oh no, they're going to win the Senate. My question is, what would change? There's the filibuster there anyway. They don't pass anything. It's completely gridlocked. Why do I care if they lose the Senate?
It would be very important for the Democrats to retain control of the Senate. Civilization as we know it today would be in jeopardy if the Republicans win the Senate.
Is comedian-in-chief Nancy Pelosi. She also had another one, which I also want to play before we go to Ben Shapiro here. It's a short one, but it speaks volumes about the treatment of Barack Obama versus George W. Bush, at least in her mind. Let's listen to this one.
We never treated President Bush the way they treat President Obama.
I bet Ben is going to crack up at that one, too. Hello, Ben Shapiro, editor-in-chief of Truth Revolt, editor-at-large at Breitbart News, and a New York Times best-selling author. His latest, The People versus Barack Obama. Hello, Ben.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So, the Democrats never treated George W. Bush the way the Republicans treat Barack Obama, huh?
No, they were always kind and gentle. I mean, as we all remember back during the Bush years, they were wholehearted in their support of President Bush, the same way that they're now encouraging us all to be wholehearted in our support for President Obama's ISIS strategy. My favorite part, actually, of that first clip with Nancy Pelosi on Bill Maher is that she actually doesn't realize she's joking until the audience starts laughing at her.
Right. Well, I got to confess, first I thought she was serious, then I thought she was trying to be funny given that she's on Bill Maher's show, and then I couldn't figure it out, but I think you got it right. She thought she was being serious until she went along with the laughter.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point she had to realize, wait a second, maybe I sound a little bit over the top, but honestly, this is the same party that has a head of the DNC that thinks that Republicans legitimately beat women. So it's this is, I think, honestly, this is why Democrats over the long run win, even if it sounds ridiculous in the short run. Because the truth is that if you watch the rest of that interview with Maher, she starts getting, loud ovations from the crowd when she talks about all the evil things that Republicans are doing. And I think what the Democrats have really mastered, I think this is actually something that they're good at. And it's easy to laugh at Nancy Pelosi. I think what they're actually quite good at is they recognize what their audience is. I mean, who they are talking to. And when they're on Bill Maher, they'll just lie wholesale. I mean, they don't really care because they understand the audience is huge. And then when they go back to their base, then they'll tell the truth and they'll explain that they didn't really mean any of that. And so the problem is that nobody who's in the larger, broader audience ever sees what they see to their smaller audience. Right. And Barack Obama does the same thing. And when he makes a huge speech in front of the entire American people, looking like he's big and buff and tough and rough on ISIS, and then he goes back and basically backtracks on everything that he ever said about ISIS, he understands that everybody sees the initial speech and nobody sees the backtrack.
No, you're absolutely right. And you wrote a great piece at Breitbart.com, Big Government, talking about why Republicans should never play nice with Democrats. And then, of course, today there's a story out about how Nancy Pelosi and John Boehner and the Democrats and the Republicans have agreed, to fund Planned Parenthood and Obamacare and the funding the Syrian rebels. And, it's just, I don't think Republicans have the stomach not to play nice with Democrats.
I think that's right. And it's not even a matter of playing nice legislatively with Democrats. They don't have the stomach to go at it mano a mano in terms of the moral battle. The fact is that what Democrats constantly do, and they're very consistent about this, is everything they do is spoken in the language of ethics. So when Republicans are wrong about something, supposedly, it's not that Republicans have a mistaken policy based on bad evidence. It's that Republicans are evil and hate women and want to end civilization and are just terrible people. Republicans, by contrast, when they argue about President Obama or Nancy Pelosi, they're just incompetent. They're just not good at what they're doing, or their argument isn't useful, it's not efficient. Okay, well, the vast majority of American people, if I said to you somebody is evil, you're going to react more strongly emotionally than if I said somebody's inefficient. And that's obvious, in any circumstance of life. The Democrats understand that language. Republicans may understand it, but they don't want to use it, either because they're too civil or because they're too stupid, or both.
I want to switch topics, Ben. Another piece that you wrote for townhall.com, at least that's where I saw it, and that was the conversation we won't have about raising men. And you talk about what's going on in the NFL and the focus on domestic violence, et cetera. And, you talk about how the left just chooses to exploit it in a very esoteric fashion for their own benefit.
Well, right. I mean, the left likes to focus on language that supposedly leads to the problems of domestic abuse and child abuse and all the rest of this stuff. They want to have broad cultural conversations that invariably serve the purposes of the left. none of this actually solves the real problem. The truth is that if we're going to solve the problem of domestic abuse, the place you need to start in solving the problem of domestic abuse is not targeting the phrase throws a ball like a girl, but start with have fathers and role models who are male in the home bringing up young boys and treating women with respect. If you have that, I guarantee you that there are plenty, thousands upon thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of men in the United States who use the phrase you throw a ball like a girl and don't beat their wives because it turns out that they had fathers in the home who would never have stood for anything like that and treated their mothers with respect. And you have plenty of boys who never use the phrase throws a ball like a girl and are beating up their girlfriends or beating up their wives or their fiancés because they didn't have a male role model in the home to model behavior on how to treat women. Bottom line is that kids learn how to treat other people by the modeling that they see. And instead of focusing in on that, we focus in on all this other PC nonsense. The fact is, by the way, that girls, as a general matter, do throw a ball like a girl. If they didn't, Monet Davis would not have been on the cover of Sports Illustrated for throwing the ball like a boy, right? I mean, the fact is that the musculature of girls is different than the musculature of boys, and we all know that. But I guess that the goal of the left is to frontally lobotomize us. By the way, it is worth noting, if the left truly believes that the root of domestic violence lies in the perception of difference between men and women, then why do they expect men to actually defend women? Why do they expect men to protect women? If they believe that men and women are exactly the same in every way, including down to physical characteristics such as throwing a baseball, then where exactly is the excuse for Ray Rice not punching his fiancée when she punched him first? Because if a guy punched him first, you'd expect him to punch back. The fact is, the reason we expect that men treat women with respect is because men and women are different. And the fact that this is even a controversial statement demonstrates how stupid we've become as a society.
That's a brilliant point and very well said. And, you know, when the National Organization of Women comes out and basically says it's not a Ray Rice problem, it's an NFL problem, and then cites immediately that they have cheerleaders who have to pass jiggle tests, and that's what leads to violence, domestic violence from these players, it's just mind-boggling.
It's ridiculous. By the way, and none of them will ever cite any of the studies about violence in the NFL. The fact is, what's the crime rate in the NFL? We always hear it because it's high profile. The crime rate in the NFL...
It's lower than the general population percentage, right?
It is half. As a percentage of the general population, we're talking about people of comparable age and race. Right. If you're talking about young black men of the ages of the men in the NFL, it's twice the rate of crime in the outside the NFL society. And the same thing is, by the way, is true of young white men in the NFL versus young white men outside the NFL. And they never cite these statistics because it would undermine their entire point.
Of course.
But, you know, the point is to continue to feminize and to really androgynize would be a better word, American society.
Absolutely. Ben, great to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, people.
All right, Ben Shapiro, the book, The People vs. Barack Obama. Check it out. We'll be back with more of the show right after this break. Don't go away.